There are some micro brands out there that seem to exist solely to rip you off. They'll take as much money as possible for as little product as possible in return. This isn't one of them. Hey, my name's Ben. Welcome to Ben's Watch Club. This is a channel where we explore what the low-cost watch space has to offer. A watch brand called Boldr emailed me a few weeks ago asking if I'd like to take a look at some of their watches. I was busy at the time and I only took a glance at their site. I skimmed over them, if I'm honest, just assuming that they were yet another overpriced micro brand. Then my fiance mentioned how they were made of titanium, which I wasn't really expecting. So I took a closer look at what was on offer. What I saw was a list of specifications that lined up exactly with what I would want from a field watch at this sort of price. If you're not familiar with this brand, they're a relatively young Kickstarter brand that has a surprisingly interesting story. I'll link it below if you want to read it. They're based out of Singapore and Malaysia, though the shipping of these was surprisingly quick considering that we're in the middle of this outbreak. That's something I can't say for other recent orders which seem to have disappeared off the map. So that was pretty impressive. They've shipped me over two of their new Venture line of field watches, one black and one blue. Each arrived in their respective carry pouches along with some basic documentation. All the basic stuff's in there, I won't bore you with the details. I quite like this packaging as I feel like it could have some actual practical usage versus the traditional boxes that just end up being disposable, so I think that's pretty neat. Let's begin this review with the sizing. These are small chunky pieces sitting at 38mm in diameter and 12mm in depth. Due to the compact lug design, these have a short lug-to-lug size of just 44mm. On the website it says 42, but my calipers are clearly showing 44mm, so go figure. Despite the thickness, this watch sits very well on my small 6¼ inch wrists, and I think will look equally as good if yours are closer to average, say somewhere around 7 inches. This Venture range is made all the more comfortable by the lightweight case. As with the Loris Field watch I reviewed a few months back, and it's the one I've got on my wrist right now, these are constructed of titanium. This means each of these weigh a fraction of equally proportioned stainless steel cases, and that makes a big difference on wrist. It's also the reason you have that distinctive dull silver colour, this watch having a familiar bead blasted finish, similar to that on other titanium watches. Despite its limitations, this is still my favourite watch case material. It's not suitable for all watches out there, but for field watches like these, its practicality makes it a strong choice. The watch may be thick, but this material ensures it's still comfortable. In terms of the design, as you can see, it's very angular and squared off. In combination with the heavily grooved crown and steep lugs, it gives this watch an industrial, almost mechanical feel. The screw-down case back and crown are welcome features, contributing to the strong 200 meters of water resistance present here. This should keep you more than covered in any situation that you might find yourself in the field. There's no real need to take these off if you wanted to go swimming. The crown itself is extremely grippy and I do like it, though it does feel rather gritty during usage. We'll talk about that movement shortly. The aesthetics are up next. This dial is a fairly classic one, nothing extreme here. You get the standard numbering with the small inner 24-hour ring. You'll also find small lume pips in place as each hour marker. In combination with the lume found on the numbers and hands, you get really powerful low light performance. I'm unsure what Japanese lume they're using here, but it seems like some strong stuff. For hands, you've got a pair of silver squared off syringe hands, each of which are filled with white coloured lume. I'd also love it if they were a bit of a closer match to the colour of the case. Nevertheless, this choice makes sense, and I do like the orange accent on the second hand of both colourways. It gives a little bit of a unique look as it bobs away there. Both of these variants feature matte dark dials, which contrast well with the lettering and give the visibility that you'd want from an everyday watch. The overall layout and amount of text is fine too. As a whole, I really don't have many complaints about the design, it is very simple. Covering the dial is a flat piece of sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating. This will give best-in-class scratch protection at the cost of some impact resistance. I go into greater detail in our watch glass comparison guide. It seems like most watch enthusiasts prefer this material, myself included. It's great to see this in here, it gives you some peace of mind when it comes to basic scratches and scuffs. Both of these Ventures come equipped with NATO straps, the quality of which is pretty damn good. The stitching feels solid on each, and the material itself is surprisingly resilient for a default strap. I bet this would last a long time, however, an alternative strap might be a better option, and that's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the added depth of 2 layers of fabric inherently turns what was already a deep watch into a real thick boy. The total depth is boosted to a whopping 16.5mm, making this combination a no-go for thinner wrists. Additionally, this style of strap leaves a notable gap around the lug area, which personally I'm not that keen on. I think a 2-piece fabric strap, such as those sold separately on their site, would likely solve both of those issues, and it would give a similar, albeit smoother overall look. Nevertheless, I do like how the titanium buckle and keepers perfectly match that case. It's little bits and bobs like that that make you feel like this is overall quite a well thought out watch. This range is packing 24 jewel Japanese Seiko NH35A movements inside too, which is pretty respectable at this price point. This movement is incredibly popular among microbrands, it's very reliable and fairly accurate too. It hacks and hand winds if that's something that concerns you. As I mentioned before, while I do like the crown, I like the look of it and the feel of it texture wise, it does feel gritty during winding. There's also a ghost position as this movement supports a date function too, which this watch doesn't take advantage of. Considering some of the other great specifications that you get with this watch, I think this movement's still an understandable and good choice overall. As you can probably tell from my tone of voice, I quite like these watches. They've got a very distinctive shape, are built like tanks and boast impressive specifications. For a retail price of around £250, I'm incredibly impressed with this offering from such a young brand. On paper, these outclass many similar field watches from traditional brands at comparable prices. And I like how they're offering something that both looks and feels quite different to what's out there. For the most part, they've made the decisions that I would have made if I was looking to design a field watch like this. Not that I'd be capable of that, but it's great to see. Nevertheless, I'd love to see if they could produce something similar to this in a slightly slenderer package. One of the reasons that I enjoy wearing this Laura so much is because the case is just so slim. Yes, this watch is quartz, but still I like that discreet nature of it. And I think you get my drift. Despite that, it feels awesome on wrist, and I think it's an example of a micro brand taking the right approach and delivering some actually unique watches for a good price. Right, it's giveaway time. Thanks to Boldr for shipping over a second watch so that we can do this. We're going to take a different approach with this competition. I'm not going to beg you to share or subscribe or stuff like that. I'd just love to get some real feedback from you, the viewers, about this Ben's Watch Club channel and how you'd like to see it move forward. We want to see this channel improve and use that as your entry. If you follow the link in the description, it will take you to the entry page and just give me your thoughts in the sections on there. The winner will be picked at random, just make sure that you've got each of those sections filled out properly, or I might have to select someone else, just in an effort to prevent spam entries. Regardless of where you live, we'll do our best to cover shipping. In the last review video, we covered the Orient TriStar, which went down incredibly well. You lot voted this thing well into the cool section, venturing almost into ice-cold territory. Where do you think this Boldr should go on our wall of watches? Is this watch
low-quality Chinese garbage,
uncool, cool, or ice-cold? Give us your 2 cents in the comment section below, and remember you can vote up in the iCard above. Consider supporting us on Patreon so that we can keep this channel going through these hard times, and I'll see you in the next one.